Hey everybody, welcome to Live Coding with Jesse. I'm Jesse, and today we're going to work with React Native Web. So I got a new setup. If anybody saw the last live stream I did for freeCodeCamp, technically it was just a disaster. The audio was fine, but the video kept freezing constantly. So I'm going to backtrack a little bit and go over some of the steps that we did last time. That way you'll be able to see it as well as hear it. And I'm still getting used to this new setup. So I'm going to try my best to keep track of what's going on with the stream and in terms of quality, and then also the chat. So let me know now if you can see this, if you can hear me. If everything looks good, then we'll go ahead and get started. I'm gonna say hi to everybody in the chat. Hey. Umberto says, hey, how's it going? Yeah, the time is weird. So it is 8 a.m. in my time zone, which is Eastern time. So everybody's saying what time it is. Let's see. Rabbitworks JavaScript says they do live streaming as well. So that's awesome. Yeah, maybe I'll try to check that out if I can. All right, cool. We got people from all over here. Everybody's kind of shouting out their location. That's awesome. We got the last few: Argentina, India, Poland. Awesome. Okay, so Nepal, really cool. All right, so here's what we're gonna do. I'm going to start out by installing or starting like a Create React App project, and then we're going to just kind of switch it over to use React Native Web. If you don't know about React Native Web, I'll explain it briefly here. I think I explain it more in the last stream, so you could check that out. This is Project 7. So if you check out the stream labeled Project 7 Day 1, you can get more info. But basically, React Native Web is going to allow us to use React Native. So all the syntax is going to look like React Native, but we will be able to run that same code on the web, in iOS and Android. We could run it as a desktop app on Windows, Linux, or Mac by using Electron or something similar. And then potentially, React Native does have the capability of running on other things as well. For now, we're just going to go with those. So the first thing we're going to design for, the primary thing, is a web app. I've decided to go the web app first route because I'm going to be able to display that while streaming easier than anything else. We can run a simulator for mobile apps, but it takes a lot more out of the computer in terms of like RAM and CPU. So I don't want to slow down the stream for that. So at some point, we're probably going to want to test this on mobile. We'll definitely do that. But in terms of our day-to-day development, we're going to develop as if we were developing like a normal web app. Right? So we'll basically spend a lot of time in Chrome, and that's cool. It gives us access to all the dev tools we normally would. The development process is a lot easier than, let's say, using the simulator or using Expo and having your device hooked up to the computer. So Expo certainly makes that really easy, but definitely not as easy as just a straight web app. Okay, so Rabbitwork says Visor is nice. Yeah, so I have used Visor before, so that's also nice. But you just, like, you can't beat the ease of the web app in Chrome. We can come close, but for now we'll go with web app. So first things first, let me open this up, and we're gonna go to the React Native Web GitHub repo so y'all can check it out, see what it is. You can read about it, as we're streaming or later on. React Native Web. I'm probably gonna mess up on typing a lot because this is a new keyboard that I'm not really used to yet. Alright, so this is React Native Web. I'm going to put the link to this in the chat right now. And I see there's a lot of activity in the chat. I'll try to keep up with that, but when we get to about the halfway point in the stream, I'll maybe stop, double check like what's going on in the chat, and then at the very end of the stream, I'll check the chat again. So if you're asking questions or anything, just hang in there for a little bit, and I will I'll get to them soon. Okay, so that link is in the live chat, and we're gonna go through. Here we go. This is what I want. The Getting Started Guide. So we are going to. Yeah, we're gonna go through this for Create React App, and this is what we did last time, so we're just gonna do it again. And I'm not exactly sure what I want to do with this project yet. My thought is this: I years ago I made a game to help my oldest son learn math, and I thought kind of like I could redo that as an app with React Native Web. So maybe that's it. I don't really have any other good ideas for what the project could be, so let's do that. So let's go with Create React App and make sure I actually have Create React App on here. This is a new computer, so the reason the stream is working now and it wasn't working last time is because I bought a new PC for streaming. And let's make sure. Yeah, this should work. Alright. NPX. React App, and let's name it actually I'm gonna name it like this: Battle Math, all lowercase, all one word. That's gonna be a bigger deal later on, but there's some rules about what projects can be named that are different depending on the platform. So if we just stick with all lowercase, all together, no hyphens, that should cover every case. We should be fine. So this is doing the Create React App. You notice that was way faster than the last time we tried to do this. So much faster. I tried to do it on a 2015 MacBook Pro last time, and that's a good machine, but it just can't handle streaming and doing stuff like this at the same time. So this should only take a few more seconds, and then we'll be able to go back and add in React Native web support, which, let's see, basically what we're going to need to do is add in React Native Web, because we'll already have the other stuff. Oops. There we go. Okay, cool. So let's cd into our battle math directory. I don't know. I didn't put this in. I'll move this at some point, but I actually put this in the wrong directory. Yeah, shoot. Alright, it's okay for now. I always like to put things in my projects directory. I didn't realize I wasn't already in projects, but we're in here. And now let's just open this. We're going to open this all in code. I'm going to get rid of this one. And just to show, we have our basic file structure that you normally get when you use Create React App. Here's our package JSON, right? Just all normal stuff so far. And then now, at this point, let's add in, we'll do yarn add React Native Web to bring in that package. Let's show our terminal. There we are. Okay. If you want to know how I set up any of this stuff, like on Windows, I did a couple of tutorial videos on my YouTube channel. The link to my YouTube channel, I think, is in the description of this video. So you can check that out. I show you how to set up Node and Git and VS Code on Windows. So this should be like just the last like three videos or something on my channel. All right, so we have React Native Web here. We can see it's now in our package JSON, and we're gonna need to, let's see, we're gonna need to add some stuff in here. So you can see, hopefully, let me make this just a little bigger and make sure everybody can see it. Okay. After we do this, I'm going to go back to the chat. Okay. So we're not doing a custom Webpack configuration, right? Because Create React App is already doing that for us. Okay. But yeah, we're not going to worry about Jest or Flow for right now. We're gonna have to do Babel. We may not have to do Babel right now though. We'll see. We might be able to hold off. Okay, yeah, we might be able to hold off on it. But basically what we can do to test, and we'll see if I can get away with not configuring anything else at this point, then that'll be great, just to keep the stream moving along. What we're going to do to test this out is go into our app.js file. So you see, this is, if you're not familiar with React or React Native, right, like everything is a JavaScript file, and we use this syntax that's called JSX that looks kind of like HTML, but it's not. Kind of behind the scenes, it's actually all JavaScript functions. So we are going to come in here and get rid of basically all of this stuff, right? We don't want any of this stuff. We're going to do our own thing here. And so we're getting rid of logo for right now. I guess we can keep the app.css. Let me go back here. I think we can get just some boilerplate here. Web recipe, multi-platform apps. Is this what we're doing? No, I just want some like basic boilerplate. All right, let's check out the Code Sandbox template they have, just so we can grab it. Grab their boilerplate. I just want to be able to show you this actually running first. So let me check out their package JSON for a second here. Okay. Alright, we're good. The only thing, we didn't bring over React Art, which we may need to at some point, but I don't think we'll need to for now. So let's grab, I'm going to just grab this real quick so I don't have to type it all out. And now we'll go back here. Okay, and I actually don't think I need this right now. We'll do text, view, and then we'll use style sheet as well. So what I'm going to do in here is put in a view to start with, right? And then inside the view, I'm going to add text. Let me make this bigger. I want to make sure everyone can see. All right. Hopefully that's easier to see. So we're going to add in text. And then inside the text, you know, let's put the title, right? We're going to say this Battle Math, okay? And if you didn't catch it earlier, like, I built a game for my son when he was learning basic math. We're going to try to recreate that game using React Native Web and hopefully make it better as well. And then maybe my other kids can use it to learn math. Okay, so we have that, and then we can add our style sheet in. Easiest way is just to copy and paste some of the boilerplate for this. So let's grab this and then go back over here. We're going to put in our styles stuff here. Let's get rid of basically a bunch of this stuff. We don't really need any of that stuff. But our main view, we're going to say styles, or I'm sorry, style equals, and we're going to say styles dot, I'm going to say root, since this is basically our root component, at least technically it is, I guess, for our purposes here. So let's go root, and we'll just give it a, let's see how I want to do this. Flex. I want to center the text in the middle of the page. So let's go with justify content, center, and align items. This keyboard. Sorry, it's a new keyboard. And we're going to go center as well on the root. And let's just see if that works now before we go any further with our styling. Now, by default, React Native uses flexbox. So that's why we're using, normally you use this with flexbox. I don't need to say that we're using flexbox, because that's the default. Alright, now let's get another terminal going. We can see back in our package JSON that if we want to run this, if we want to test this, we can use, let's double check that now that I think about it. Package JSON, React scripts. Yep, we can just use React scripts. Okay. So if we do yarn start, we'll get a nice little test version here, just like a normal create React app. So we're gonna hit yarn start, see if everything works. Whoa, node server, what? Allow access. I guess it's the first time I try to do that. Oops, and it looks like I do need that other package that I neglected. So let's do. Everybody just saw all my emails. Pretty much don't have anything crazy in there, so not worried about that. Okay, so let's yarn add. What was that called? React Art? I think that's what it was called. Let's double check. Yep, React Art. And get that in there, and then it should work. Alright, and let's restart that. If you're ever running a process in the command line and you want to quit, you can just press Control-C, and that usually does the trick. So that's what I just did right there. Just quit it and restart it. Yay, check it out. Alright, so I don't know if you can see that, but it says battle math really, really small up here. Okay, now notice it's not vertically centered, so I'm guessing that's because our container has no height, right? So this is our root. Our root has no height. So we need to give that the height of like full width if we really want that to be centered. But basically the important thing here, the cool thing here is, with very little work, we've just used React Native syntax, right? These views and text, we've used that. You can see we're pulling it from React Native, right? Which we get this by bringing in React Native Web. Okay, we didn't actually bring in React Native by itself in our package JSON, but via React Native Web we have access to all these React Native primitives, and we've just used them here, and then we have them running in Chrome. And if you check it out, I'm gonna try to make this as big as I can. Why is this not dark? You can see this computer is, I've done almost nothing with it yet because it doesn't have my normal settings. But you can see, like, I'll click on this div here that says battle math in the text. It's a div, right? So those React Native primitives have been converted into DOM primitives, right? So we have divs instead of view and text. It's now been transformed into divs. And then those styles that through the React Native style sheet, those styles have now been added to these through like all these classes, right? But like let's check on our root component here and see where's our, there we go. Actually, this is going to be blocked by my picture here, so you probably won't be able to see it. Let's see, font display. Oops. Alright, so we have our, okay, yeah, you can see that. Justify content center, align item center. So you can see those are actually on that div. Alright, I'm going to go back to the chat right now, and I'm going to try to answer as much as I can from the chat in the next few minutes before we go back and maybe do a little bit more with this project. Maybe we'll actually push this to GitHub too before we end, so that the code is available for you to check out. I'm going to have to scroll up quite a bit. There's a lot in the chat. I'm going to try to get to as much as I can, and let me give myself a time limit here of about 5 minutes. Okay, we had a couple of people asked if this was for beginners. I would say yes, it definitely can be for beginners. I'll do my best to explain things and certainly ask as many questions as you want. There'll probably be some things that are going to be hard to understand if you're a beginner, but you know, just check it out and see. If it's too much that you don't understand, that's fine. Ask a lot of questions. I want to be open to beginners. But I also, I want to build out a project, so some of the stuff is going to be advanced. Let's see. Someone asked if I read comments. I do read comments. Let's see. A lot of people are just saying hey, so I'm going to say hi to everybody. Oh, Efries says saying hi from South Africa. Hey, how's it going? Ooh, Alex from Argentina. Minnesota. Hey, so Rabbitworks, you're in Minnesota. I'm going to be speaking at NDC, Minnesota this year. So if you end up going to that conference or around there, let me know. Benjamin from Kenya says hi. Newton from Nairobi. Awesome. Got Mario from Houston. Kamal from Uganda. Amit from Singapore. Yassine from Turkey. Wow. We have people from all over. So it's 9 p.m. in China, Liberia, Bangladesh. Wow. That's really cool. It's so cool. Goshu Guide says, I want to ask you, can you read from files on JavaScript as fast as C++? To be totally honest with you, I don't have the answer to that. Yeah, I just don't know. If I had to guess, I would say C++ would be faster, but I really don't know. And by faster, when we're talking about the different languages, it's usually like a few milliseconds of difference, fractions of milliseconds, right? So in terms of performance, like only in very few situations will that ever really be a big deal for performance. But that's a good question. Does anybody actually know any like real numbers on that in terms of is JavaScript or C++ more performant? You got East Africa, India, Brazil, Philippines. Okay. Korea, Japan. Rado says, could you make an API calling app just for getting tweets or movies? Yeah, I mean, that's certainly possible. Are you asking me if it's possible, or are you asking me if I could build it, like, right now on the stream? We definitely could do something like that on the stream. Probably not for this project, but for a future project. Ramuni says, nice video. Thank you. I appreciate that. Hello from Amsterdam. Hey, how's it going? Okay, so Rabbitworks says, talk about what you're using, NPX versus NPM. Okay, I'm going to be 100% honest with you. I don't know that much about NPX. Okay, the only time I ever use NPX is when I'm installing Create React App. Okay, so at some point, the official docs for Create React App started recommending using NPX to install new apps with Create React App. So it wasn't always like that. You can even see there's a link to the instructions for older versions, but this seems to be the quickest and recommended way to do it. So that's why I do it that way. So I've never really taken the time to look into it. But you can see there are alternatives, right? We could do npm init. Yarn create react. We do yarn. So there's definitely multiple ways of doing this. But NPX is kind of a newer thing. if anybody else has any experience with that, like more experience technically with that, then please let me know. Hector says hello from Colombia. Hey, how's it going? Limitless says, what is NPX? Why not use NPM? Okay, so I mean, basically same thing. The only reason I'm using NPX instead of NPM is because that's the recommended way to use Create React App. Rabbitworks says, NPX gives you the ability to run package scripts and stuff without having to install them, as in Create React App. Alright, that's a great answer. So like, if you notice in the beginning of the stream, we never actually installed Create React App. We just ran this, right? And this was a new setup on a new machine that I've never really built anything on yet. So I never installed it even before the stream. So yeah. So I would say that alone makes using NPX worth it, like taking away that step of having to install something else. And thanks, Rabbitworks. Mr. Smith asked a question. I'm not exactly sure what your question means. There maybe it's a translation thing. Like, yeah. So, Mr. Smith, if you get it, like, ask your question again. Maybe like explain it, and I'll answer it. Otherwise, I'm not exactly sure what you're trying to ask. Alright, Michael Creel says, if you're using NPX, you are sure to get the latest version. Alright, so that's awesome. Rado says, not scripted. Yeah, this is not scripted at all. Abhi says, how long have you been practicing? Let me think. Like 6 years? So I've been a developer for like 6 years, I think. Looks like there's a conversation going on in another language. So I don't know if y'all are just talking to each other or whatever. If we have time, I can go back and use Google Translate to see what's going on, but I want to get at least a little bit more done with this app. So I'm going to skip over it for now. I'm almost to the bottom of the chat, and then we'll go back and do a little bit more code. Limitless asked about what are the bundlers. Rabbitworks says Webpack. Yeah, so Webpack would be your almost always when you're using React. You will also use Webpack as your bundler. I've seen people use other stuff with React, but I've never used anything other than Webpack. Oh, okay. Rabbitworks is recommending using React snippets to be able to generate component boilerplate right away. That's good advice. And then React snippets is a like a package extension for Visual Studio Code. They probably have the same stuff for other editors as well. I'm not sure how to pronounce the name, but the question is, what's the difference between Create React App and React Native Web? Okay, so Create React App is just a tool that lets you build out like the basics, the bare bones for a React app really quickly, right? So we just ran Create React App, and then we got all these files and stuff and folders. So it automatically created a lot of the stuff for us that would have taken a while to do on our own, but you need it for every project, and it's almost always the same for every project. So that just handles it for us. React Native Web, it just allows you to use React Native syntax to build web apps. Okay. So that would be the difference. Hopefully that answered your question. Let me know if it didn't. Edward asks about what is React Native Web. You code in browser and then build for mobile. Yeah, you definitely can do it that way, but basically React, like I said, React Native Web just lets you take the React Native primitives and turn them into DOM primitives so that it can run on the web. Limitless asks, why did I use root? To be honest with you, I kind of like the idea of using whatever the outermost container is of a component and just saying root here. I don't remember where I first saw that, but I saw somebody else doing that and thought, like, okay, that's not a bad idea. It saves me from having to come up with names for stuff. And then I know, like, whatever's in this root, this applies to the outermost container. In every component, this is just the outermost container for me. So that's what I use this for. Okay. Let's see. Are there any examples of React Native website? I believe Twitter Lite is used. They use React Native Web for Twitter Lite, and they use React Native Web for one of the Major League Soccer websites. So just off the top of my head, that's it. So I'm going to go back to the code right now. I know I didn't get through all the comments, but I'll get back to the comments in about, I don't know, 10-15 minutes, something like that. Alright, cool. So let's get back in here and do just a little bit more. Okay, so here's the basic idea of what this app is going to do in terms of just like very, very basic. What we're going to do is the app is going to have a text input and a button to submit. It needs that on like every screen. It's going to generate a math problem randomly, all right, and then when you input the value in the text input, it will check to make sure that that's the correct answer, right? And that's how the game will progress. What will happen is on the screen will appear a certain amount of like enemies. If you get it right, then one of the enemies disappears. If you get the question wrong, a new enemy appears. So you can get as many questions wrong as you want without the game like saying game over, but it's just going to take even longer for you to get past it. So basically, to get past the level, you will have had to like master that type of math problem, right? We're just going to start out with addition. It's going to be very basic. It's going to be geared towards young children, so we're not going to do anything like crazy in terms of graphics. Definitely nothing super violent or anything like that. We want to keep it like appropriate for young children. Okay, so for now I'm not going to worry about graphics. Everything's just going to be a bit of text, but we can build this out. So React Native comes with a text input already built in. So we're going to build stuff out at first just in app.js, and as it gets bigger, we'll break stuff off into separate components. Okay, so let's put this text input here, and let's go to the React Native documentation. React Native text input. React Native docs are great. You can see all the info you need. So we'll just take this. Let's just copy and paste this basic example that they have so that we can kind of get started as quickly as possible. So let's throw this in here. And you know what? Let's grab their state as well. No, I'm not going to. let's let's create our own state, right? Because we don't need to use the constructor, right? We'll grab what did they call it? Text. Okay, so they called their state text. Text, and at first let's just leave this blank for now. So what's happening here is we have our text input, right? They've given it some style. We'll just keep that for now. And then on change text. So this is a little bit different than normal React, right? We have this on change text, and that's every time the user types in that input, this is going to be called. We got a little arrow function here, so we're passing in the actual text, the value of that text input, right? And then we're running this, which is we're just setting the state of text to text, right? Since the value we're passing in and the key have the same name, we can just do it like this. And then the value of the input is actually the state, right? So it's kind of a circular. You type in there, it changes a state, and then a change in state causes a re-render, which then changes the value. That's what's called a controlled input, controlled component. Okay. There are other ways to do this, but this is the standard way to handle an input in React. Alright, so let's save that and just verify that it works. Oops. Get rid of that one. Okay, cool. So let's type something. Hey, it works. And we can go in here to React. And let's check our... Where's our... state. Let's see where our state for this component is. There we go. So our state for our app component here will change as we type. See? Alright, cool. So that is working. So let's go to back here to our React documentation, and let's go to button, and we're going to add a button. So React Native comes with this button pre-built. If you use button, it will automatically style it differently depending on the platform, right? So according to the docs, we're just targeting either Android or iOS, right? And this will give it an Android style, and this will give it an iOS style, right? We're going to stick with that for now. We may want to put our own styles on the button. If that's the case, we'll stop using button, and instead we'll use touchable opacity, which is the primitive that button is built on, right? And that lets us do a lot more in terms of styling, right? But for now, just to get the functionality, going quickly, we're just going to do this. So I'm going to copy their example and put it in here for now, this button, and we got to make sure we're actually pulling button in, button, and for now we're not on press. We're not going to do anything because we don't have anything set up. So we're just going to console log, console.log, and this state text, right? Okay. And let's change this from learn more to submit. Okay. Oops. Now let's check our app. Hey, we got a big purple submit button. Let's type something and then hit that, and that's weird. On process marked as required, and button size undefined. Alright, so we've got an error. Let's check that out. Okay, so maybe let's put that in an arrow function. See if that does anything. There we go. Okay, so I should have put it in an arrow function, but basically we can see we type, we hit submit, and we can get the value in the console, right? So if you're not like familiar with React at all and you've done some web development before, you know this is kind of really different than you would normally handle text inputs. Like it is a little bit different. Instead of grabbing values directly from the text input, we're grabbing everything from state. Okay, it may seem a little weird on this scale, but after you get used to it and you start having more complex like use cases, you'll see like actually saving the value of everything in state ends up being a lot more easy to deal with than needing to grab values from the DOM from multiple inputs. So it is a lot nicer. It may not seem like it with just one text input, but when you start to get more and more on a page, this does end up being a much easier way of handling form inputs. Okay, let me check the time. Alright, we're running. I only want the stream to last for about an hour, so we're getting down to about like 10 minutes left. Let me check the chat just to see how much is in there, and then yeah, actually there's a lot in the chat. How about let's go ahead and create a Git repository for this and push this to GitHub, and then I'll go back to the questions. So let's do git status. So this is already like just started out as a Git repository. When we use create React app, it does that. So we've changed our package.json. Remember when we added some packages, we've changed our app.js, and then the yarn lock file comes with us using yarn. So that will change automatically every time we update our packages. So I'm going to do a git commit with the M flag, or I'm sorry, with the AM flag. So we're going to add and commit and add a message all in one line. And let's just say, I'm just going to say init for now because this will be our first commit. And yeah, that's fine. Okay, so locally we have this repository, but we don't actually have it anywhere on GitHub. So let's go to GitHub. Oops. If you don't already have a GitHub account, I highly recommend getting a GitHub account if you'd like to become a developer of any sort. You know, just sign up. As long as you have it, that's good. And then, you know, as we go through this and you see the process of committing things to GitHub, you'll kind of get a better understanding of what you would use it for. So I'm going to create a new repository right now. I'm going to name it BattleMath. Okay, I'm going to skip the description for now. I'm going to keep it public. I don't want to initialize it with a README, a gitignore, or a license. Okay, we can add those in later. Now, I'm going to use the SSH version because I've already set up my SSH keys. If you want to know how to do that, check out the video about setting up Git on my personal YouTube channel. Links in the description. But since I'm doing that, I can skip down here. We're pushing an existing repository from the command line. So I'm going to copy that. I'm going to take it one step at a time here. We're going to paste that. Okay, so this is, we're adding our remote, right, which is going to be the SSH path to that repository in GitHub. And then we're going to push to that remote. So we're pushing our master branch, right, to that remote. Great. Now, if we go back here to GitHub and we check our repository, you could see, hey, here it is. Here's all our files, right? If we go to the source and our app.js, you can see, hey, look, there's our title, battle math, and here's our text input and our button, right? So now this is on GitHub, and I will give you the URL in the chat right now. And then from now on, I will, if I remember, I'll put this URL in the description to the videos. So everyone, you can check it out. You could submit a pull request if you want. You'll always be able to see what's going on in this project from there. So I'm going to scroll up right now and try to get through as many questions as I can in the next like 7 minutes or so, and then I got to end this stream and do my real job as a software engineer. I'm trying to, I forgot to take note of where I left off at, so it might take me a second to figure out where I left off. Alright, I think I found it. Always the Legend said, mission failed, we'll get him next time. I do not know what that was referring to. So, not sure what's going on. Limitless says, keep going. Perfect, explain. Alright, thanks. Limitless asks if I can talk more about flexbox for a bit. Okay, flexbox is a newer thing in CSS that allows you to position elements on the page of a website or a web app. So traditionally this has been done in different ways. At one point tables were used. People also used floats to create layouts in CSS. Flexbox is the default in React Native. And then there's a newer way that's CSS Grid, although you can combine CSS Grid and Flexbox. So basically Flexbox is a technique to position elements on a page, and it's just CSS. So if you check out Flexbox, there are a lot of cool tutorials online, like gamified tutorials. Flexbox Froggy is one that comes to mind that's kind of a nice gamified Flexbox tutorial, so you can go through that just to learn a little bit more. The only thing I will say, in React Native for mobile, the axis is flipped. So if you don't know anything about Flexbox, this isn't going to make sense. But if you know a little bit about it, just know the axis is flipped. So everything is usually like the opposite of what you think it would be. So by default on web, I believe the flex direction is row. The default flex direction on mobile, with React Native, is column. So I think that's the way. It's either that or the other way around. But basically the flex direction is the opposite of what you'd be used to if you learned Flexbox for web. It's a little bit tricky to learn at first, but once you learn it, it's really nice for positioning. Furcon asks if someone can explain the difference between React and React Native. We got some answers there as well. So Mario says React Native lets you build apps that can run on Android and iOS, and yeah, that's it. So like React is a JavaScript library or framework, depending on who you're talking to, that allows you to build web apps. React Native allows you to build mobile apps, but it's expanded into more. So you can build for more than just mobile with React Native, but basically, like, at its core, what it was designed to do at first was to build Android and iOS apps using React. Always the Legend says, why not just write math problems on paper for the kid? Well, that's how we started. I created this game on a whiteboard with markers playing, and then at some point I realized, like, hey, like, I could make this a game, like a computer game, right? So I just kind of did it as a side project. Sorry. I did it as a side project just to help me learn a long time ago. But I found the project and ran it like a couple days ago, and it just occurred to me like, hey, we could just redo this. Michael Creel says no Pomodoro. Yeah, I did. I just forgot to bring up the Pomodoro clock, so we'll use it in future streams. Sabik says, what course should I take in college to be a web developer? I would say don't worry about it. In college, take whatever you want. There are plenty of online courses. A lot of them are free to learn how to be a web developer, so go with that. Basically, plan on learning web development on your own outside of what's offered in your college. Fatima says hello from Libya. Hey, how's it going? We have a hello from Ghana. We have hello from Egypt, Nigeria, India, Ukraine, Nepal. Awesome. Ivory Coast, New Delhi, Australia, Saudi Arabia. Goshu Guide says, does JavaScript use the internet to read files or CPU? I'm not 100% sure what you're asking there. So like, when you're running JavaScript in your browser, right? Like that's using your CPU, your RAM, everything like that. So like the JavaScript files will come to you over the internet, but what runs in your browser will use your CPU. Now, like, there could be some of that work happening server side, so not on your CPU, and then the results of that would be sent back to you. Alright, so in a situation, let's say, where there's a lot of calculation or work that needs to be done, maybe it would make sense to do that server side and just send back some sort of visual indication back. Alright, but mostly like running JavaScript in the browser, that is actually running on your machine. Alright, Rados from Bosnia. Hey, how's it going? I have hello from Kenya, from Russia. What's your opinion about Razor Pages web app with .NET Core? Actually, so I just recently worked with a web app like that. If your team is like heavy into .NET and doesn't really know anything else, I think that's definitely a way to go. If you want like a client-side web app, like a true progressive web app experience, you probably can't get that with Razor Pages. So you are somewhat limited in that. But if you just wanted like an MVC type of web app, Razor Pages is a legitimate way. I wouldn't go out of my way to learn it, but if you already know .NET, that's probably the quickest way to get a web app up and running. Monica says, you are too good, thank you. Rashid says, you explain very well, thanks, I appreciate it. Dave asks if these shows are recorded. Yeah, they're recorded. It'll be available on the FreeCodeCamp YouTube channel shortly after the stream ends. Sabik asked the question earlier about what course to take in college to get a job. So I had recommended you got to learn on your own. Sabik says, I know, but I want a degree to get a job. Well, then do computer science then. Like, if you know you want a job in web development, computer science is probably going to look the most impressive for that, right? Like, I mean, my degree's in business, but realistically, like, if I had a degree in computer science, it would probably help me more in my career as a software engineer. Alright, I'm going to skip through and find just some questions. Wareru says, why do you use Windows instead of Linux or Mac? I use Mac at work for the most part. I use Linux on servers, but I needed a machine that could handle streaming, and it was a lot cheaper to go with a PC than a Mac, so that's why I ended up doing a PC. John Henson says, Jesse, why no React hooks? So React hooks are not yet available for React Native, but the React Native 0.59.0 release is going to come out soon, and when that happens, React hooks will be available. So we will definitely update and switch to React hooks when that happens. Alright, I'm gonna have to end soon because I have a stand up for work coming soon. But let me try to get through these last few questions. Rados asks about doing a live session together, where Rados can create a PHP API and I could implement it into React app. That actually sounds really cool. Yeah, we could talk about that. Rados, if you don't already follow me on Twitter, follow me on Twitter. I think the link to my Twitter account is in the description. If it's not, then just click the link to my YouTube channel, and I have links to my Twitter there. So, like, add me on Twitter and send me a DM about it, and maybe we could try to work that out. Rabbitworks says, I have to head to work, but I hope people can check out my live coding session this evening, 5 p.m. CST. Alright, so check that out. I'll see if hopefully if I don't have a meeting or something, then I can check it out as well. And I'm gonna show, let's see. Let's see. Alright, so Thiago says, does this mean we can create native apps and websites with the same almost base like Ionic framework? Yeah, basically. Let's see. Pavel says, do you recommend those beginner developer about React? I'm not. So I think you're asking, do I recommend React for beginning developers? Probably. You don't want your very first thing to be jump into React. First, learn HTML, CSS, and some basic JavaScript before you go into React. But like if you know HTML, CSS, and basic JavaScript, then for sure, like, I think React is a good. It's easy to learn enough to make some basic web apps in. If you want to get really advanced, that does take some time. But yeah, I think it's good for, let's say, the beginner who's just trying to get into their first framework after learning the basics. Akash says, what are your opinions on MobX for state management? I've never used MobX. I've heard good things about it. So, I think it's definitely a good option. Although, with the React Context API, I think it's less necessary to bring in a third-party state management library. Pavel says, what's the difference between Node.js, Express.js versus React to create a web app? Okay, so React is just going to be your front end of your app, like your client-side stuff, although it can run server-side, but if you want to do anything server-side, you need Node.js. So Node.js is JavaScript running on a server. Now, Express is like a library that runs with Node.js that makes it easier to do server things with Node.js. So you would use Node.js on your server with Express to make things easier, and then on your client side, you're going to use React. You could potentially also render React server side as well, all right, for, let's say, for like search engine optimization purposes, right? But it wouldn't be one versus the other. It would be, you'd use them together. Depending on your use case, you might want to use them all together or just some of them, right? If you're building just an API, you just need Node and then probably Express to help with that. If you just want client side, you need only React. But if you want like both together, a client and server side app, if you're handling like form data and things like that, then you're going to want to use them all together. And on previous live streams, if you go back and watch previous live streams, we've done just that and used React, Node, and Express all together. Michael says you need G Fuel. I'm guessing you said that right when I had that big yawn. Game Explorer says, do you use Solo Learn? I don't think I ever used Solo Learn. I've heard about it, but I don't think I ever used it myself. We have hello from Georgia. Hey, how's it going? Anton says, what's your opinion on WebAssembly? I think WebAssembly is awesome and it's going to be very useful. I have not used it yet. If you don't know, WebAssembly is basically a way to use like you can use other programming languages on the web, right? Normally like JavaScript is your only web programming language, but it's a way to use, without getting too into it, like you could potentially use, like, let's say, I don't know, like C# on the web and things like that, right? So really cool. It's going to present a lot of opportunities for other types of developers to get involved in the web, and it's going to be a good opportunity for websites and web apps to be able to do more. So I think it's cool. Make Me Proud keeps asking, React Native for web? Yeah. So it's React Native that runs on the web as a web app. Rama says, what language is good for web-based project? JavaScript. JavaScript is where it's at for the web. Cyberpunk says, is this thing live or recorded? It's live right now, and then the recording will be available afterwards. Let's see. I think I've gotten all the questions. Okay, cool. So yeah, I definitely have to go now. I got to get to work at my day job as a software engineer for Dick's Sporting Goods. I'm actually working with React Native Web there, so I'm going to quit the React Native Web stuff here and go right back to my other project and use it again. Thank you all so much for watching. I hope that I can start to do these live streams on a more regular basis now that I have my new computer set up, so we have a reliable way to stream. I'm hoping that I can maybe on like Wednesdays and Fridays in the morning in my time, so right around the same time we did today, do some live streams. If I have time, maybe even on the weekends do some live streams, but if I can get at least once a week and be consistent with that, I'll be happy. For now, love to be able to do it more, but there's just, with the new job and things going on, it's just been tough to find time. So anyway, I really appreciate hanging out with you all, and I'm looking forward to the next stream. Hey, feel free to message me. You can follow me on Twitter or Instagram. I'm pretty active on those. You can message me with any questions or anything. check out the GitHub repo. Put issues up there, pull requests, whatever you want. Check out my YouTube channel. I go more in depth into a lot of things that I've used today, and I talk more about it. So yeah, until next time, have a great day, have a great weekend, and I'll see you.